Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is How to Fix the Rugrats Reboot. So this is sort of a new series where I take a franchise or a company or something like that, and I basically go how I would fix it or how I would run it or how I would develop it or so forth. And I decided to do my first one with the Rugrats Reboot because I have opinions. Might as well put them somewhere. So it was recently announced that Nickelodeon is going to reboot the Rugrats both with a 26, I think, episode TV show and then a hybrid live-action CGI feature film, which sounds horrific. So I'm basically going to keep that structure. We're going to have a TV show and a movie. I understand why you'd keep the movies going. It was a very successful franchise, at least the first two were. The third one, for many reasons, was a bad idea. First, I'm going to start off with the TV show. Now, Rugrats was a huge show. It was basically like their SpongeBob before SpongeBob came on, in that they played it incessantly, and it worked because they could play it in Nick Jr. and Nickelodeon. They could basically play it. I think they could come up with a reason it could be on Nick at Night or something. Like, it was on all the time. They tried doing different versions of it, all grown up, didn't really work. One thing about TV reboots, and an example I would use more recently, is the Muppet Babies reboot. You're basically not as much appealing to the old fans as you are appealing to new kids who will then become fans. Granted, I think they should actually rerun old Rugrats more. I'm surprised they don't really use that as a resource as much as they should, because it's like such a big show. Like, say Rugrats, everyone can name like 5 episodes right off the top of their head. And I think kids today would like it. I've shown it to my daughter. She's actually into it. I'm more of a season 1 fan. But with the Rugrats reboot, basically you have 26 episodes. I would kind of run the feature film and the reboot series differently, as I think like when the Muppet Babies show started, most adults like didn't know that it premiered even, and like don't actually watch it. Kids watch it, so it's appealing more for the kids. So what I would do is meet the kind of fan base, the new fan base that we're trying to get in, and the old fan base in the middle, in that the former Rugrats of the original show would be the adults, and you'd have brand new babies, basically. I would basically take like, I don't want Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil to be forever babies on the TV show. I think that's like sort of weird, and there's been like so many episodes, like, you know, at a certain point, like, we've kind of mined all we can with those characters as babies. Let's make them adults. And you can do a lot of different things with that. Now, I would definitely have like Tommy's kid would be the main kid. I think that's just kind of a no-brainer. Phil and Lil, I don't know how I would exactly do that. I think what I would do is Lil would have like probably a daughter or a son. Phil has a daughter, but I'd actually like to make it more 2018 and make it more progressive, frankly. I would make Phil gay and has a partner and has an adoptive daughter. I think that would be a nice spin on it. There's nothing necessarily from the original show that made me think that that character should be gay or anything, but I just think, you know, as long as we're kind of doing something new and updating it, we should at least like lean towards more of a progressive show. I would actually like also like one of the babies to be probably mixed race as well. Maybe the lead baby, I don't have names for any of these babies or anything. I didn't think that much of it. But I think it would be cool to kind of like have babies who make up the parental makeup of what's going on now, and it would make sense, judging by, you know, demographics and whatnot, that would make the most sense. So I would definitely, maybe like, yeah, actually, let's say maybe like Tommy's wife is black, I think, and then the main baby is, I guess, mixed race, and then Phil's kid, Phil is gay and has an adoptive daughter. The one thing I'm going to mess with a little bit is, instead of the kind of Chucky archetype character and the Angelica archetype character, I would actually switch, where Angelica's son is kind of the worrywart Chucky character, and then Chucky's daughter is like the Angelica character. And I feel like Chucky as an adult would probably deal with a daughter like an Angelica type personality. I could imagine him kind of having a bossy daughter like that and just like kind of putting up with it and not like reprimanding her in the right way, like just being an enabler the whole time. So, and I can imagine like Angelica, as she's grown up and matured, has become a different person and is much more caring and would have like a worrywart son. So I thought that'd be kind of a cool thing. And instead of like, you know, these would obviously be different babies, different model babies and so forth. And I don't know what I do necessarily with Susie and Dill and Chucky's sister. What's her name? I like don't remember this character. They could have kids too. All the original characters characters I would have come back. I would probably focus more on the characters who were there in the first season, but I think you probably have to have Dill and stuff. Maybe Dill could not have a kid yet because he's younger. I mean, the Rugrats would be about, like, let's say this first episode airs in like 91, I believe. So it's like, let's say they're born in 1990, so Tommy and that age would be around 28, early 30s, which is like a typical age to have kids, a little young for that, but still. I would also, in terms of the kids storyline, you just have them do baby crap. Who cares? I don't know, whatever. It could just be like, you know, updated things, like they say things about they want to grab their dad's iPhone and stuff. I don't know, you know, it's like whatever with that. With the adult storyline, here's my sort of take on it, is I would have Tommy would be kind of running an online business out of his home, which kind of makes sense. It works for what Stu was doing. Like, there weren't a lot of like inventor type people in the 90s. It was kind of like a new take on it, so they could have toys and things like that. You could even have him have like an Etsy page or something like that, being creative. You could actually that could work a lot better in the reboot, to be honest. A little more relatable. A lot more people have jobs like that at this time. I would have Phil and Lil have more working class jobs. I'm not exactly sure what. They would probably live in the same area. You would see the grandparents occasionally. We're not going to overdo it with that, but particularly in the beginning episodes, we'll see more of them. But then, and this first season, I don't want to get too much in the fantastical stuff. I like it when they do the relatable, like from a baby's perspective sort of things, and I would do more of that in season 1, and then as we'd go on, we'd do more of the fantasy stuff, like how a baby's in imagination sees something. You would have to do some because people would get not as into it. One kind of plot line I was thinking, first off, I would definitely have Reptar and Cynthia reboots be like a conscious thing within the show, like a meta thing. I would actually wouldn't mind like an episode that's just what a Reptar movie would be. I think that would be awesome. Obviously, I'm very pro Reptar, but I think that would be really funny. And then with Cynthia, I would actually have Angelica is like a manager for like social media, you know, like a talent agent sort of thing. And in an episode, she has actually pitched the Cynthia reboot and how they would go about it. And that can be a cool, funny episode. And then the babies can come in and mess it up somehow. I don't know. You know, it's like the same framework of every episode. And I think that could run well because you could have a new group of kids who reflect more of what kids are and babies would be today versus in 1990, or at least what modern media would let those interpretations be, and you know, have some fun with that. But then we get to the movies. Now, first off, this CG live action hybrid thing sounds horrible. Like, that sounds like a nightmare. Everyone has these images of the N64 game that sounds horrific, and it sounds like something nobody wants. It sounds like something an executive said just to, like, you know, appease the overlords to be like, oh yeah, we could do a movie. And I agree, the movie movie is very profitable. I get why you'd want to do it. Paramount doesn't have a ton of things going on, particularly with Disney owning like half of the box office. They're like, we need something, and I get why they'd want to do it. Now, the Rugrats franchise has been sort of mismanaged over the years, movie franchise at least. The first one made over $100 million, the second one made about 78, that's at least domestic, and then the third one, they had this really stupid idea to combine it with Wild Thornberrys, which makes no sense, as the Wild Thornberrys movie that came out a year before made about $40 million, which is not enough to be combining franchises. Like, it's like the second Rugrats movie made pretty much double what you made, and like, why are you doing that? Like, you're helping Wild Thornberrys out while hindering Rugrats. That's stupid. It was a dumb idea. Like, it's like, I can't really financially figure out why they thought that would have worked, but it didn't. By the way, I'm sure they're gonna reboot Wild Thornberrys the next like 5 years, but whatever. So then what you do with this is forget that live action CGI. We're getting rid of that. That's horrible. That's a terrible idea. We're gonna do 2D traditionally animated Rugrats. That's how you get the adults in, and it's more important to get the adults in than the TV show, because the adults are the ones who drive and have money and pay for tickets and have movie pass and will be motivated to get their kids to see this. Now, that means though that these movies will be Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil as babies. This will be classic Rugrats. I don't care what it is. They can go to Paris, they can go to wherever. It doesn't really matter to me. I have no idea what the plot would be. You could maybe have, like, you know, the new, I don't even think you should have the new show anyway connected to it. I think it should be a separate thing so these parents can enjoy it and be like, hey, I went to Rugrats when I was a kid. Now 20 years later, it's 20 years later since the original movie. I went to Rugrats when I was a kid. Now I'm taking my kids to see Rugrats, and like, get that nostalgia in there and have the first one with the first traditionally animated movie. Do like a fun Rugrats thing, make it sort of similar to the original movie. We don't need to introduce any more stupid kids or anything like that. Just like do a fun Rugrats thing, you know, I don't know, we had the thing with Chucky's mom, we had another Rugrats born. I'm not sure where to take it. Just make it traditionally animated. Don't do that CGI thing. That sounds horrible. I don't know how that would work or anything like that. But I think that was probably the best way to do it, because you actually have a traditionally animated franchise. Let's not fuck it up, basically. And you don't have many animated franchises that had 3 movies at that point. You know, there's not like really a lot. There's like Cars, Toy Story, Rugrats, like that's it, you know, and they were fairly successful until that mistake that was the 3rd one. And it even had a bad release date. They really just did not handle that 3rd one very well at all. That's really what you do. And if the first one does well, I would bring in more of the reboot kind of TV show into the movie universe. I would start relying less and less on the nostalgia and relying more and more on the new franchise, which I actually think would do pretty well. People generally like babies and stuff. I know people say kids love to see things from the baby perspective, but people generally like babies, so like just like go with that. Also have an awesome, like, cool soundtrack, you know, get like, they had like a million different alternative rock stars because it was 98. Like, get like, you know, all the biggest pop stars you can to do songs for it and stuff like that. Let's like have another Maya Blackstreet thing. I don't know who's the equivalent of that. Is that like, I'm really out of it, so like Kendrick Lamar and a lady, Cardi B had a baby recently. We could probably connect that somehow. I don't know. And then, yeah, I would also add that I think most of the grandparents would all be dead, so have fun with that. But I think this Rugrats reboot could be cool if they handled it this way. If they handle it, honestly, I don't agree that every reboot has to be respectful of the fans. We kind of like hold their hands into the new world and stuff like that. I mean, the DuckTales reboot kind of like did what it was going to do and everyone was cool with it, and it's kind of rare. Like, look at what happened to Ghostbusters. You can't go like too hard on the change, but I think this way it's like the parents could have what they wanted. You can meet them halfway, but also appeal to the kids, and this could really work. And you definitely need to appeal to the kids because it's Rugrats. But yeah, so that is how I would fix Rugrats. I don't know why anyone would give me, let me be in charge of the Rugrats franchise like this, but that's entirely what I would do. I think it would be a cool thing. And also, you know, people could say traditional animation isn't as profitable and things like that, but with TV animation going theatrical, that seems to be the way you do it, from Teen Titans Go to My Little Pony. It's just like, it's more thought of in that way, and I think it could work, and I think parents would be happy to take their kids. Like, hey, I think that will work within that. Anyway, I mean, I think the reboot would do pretty well because people would go, oh, this is like, you know, I think kids would like it. There might be backlash from adults on Twitter and stuff, but kids don't really use Twitter. They shouldn't use Twitter, but kids don't really use Twitter. So I think it would be accepted pretty well. And I think that would be a cool reboot. But yeah. Anyway, that's how I would do it. I don't know what the babies would be called. You could even do a different dynamic or something if you wanted to. But just that basic framework is what I would do to reboot the Rugrats. I have no clue who would write it or something like that. Keep the Powerpuff Girl reboot people away from it. Other than that, don't make it like Mimi. Just literally do the same show, just like with those suggestions, and they should be fine, and we'd all be happy about that. So if you have any ideas about my ideas on how to reboot the Rugrats or how to fix the Rugrats reboot, then comment below in the comments, and also like this new series if you're into it, or if I sucked at it or something like that, and subscribe if you would like to. Oh yeah, the dog's dead too. What was the dog's name? Spike? Spike's fucking dead. That dog is dead. Sorry, guys. He could be really old. No, that dog is dead. I'm sorry.